Thank you. All right, I'm going to call to order the regular monthly meeting of the City of Helotes Planning and Zoning Commission. It is February the 2nd at 7:01 p.m. I'd like to ask the Commission Secretary to please call the roll.
Greg Michelle.
Here.
Jason Whiteman.
Here.
Ron Hauser. Here. Richard Hawk.
Here.
Alex Blue.
Here.
Mario Rios.
Here.
Jeff Wade.
Here.
Joe Edmond has retired.
Okay, thank you. And a note for the record, please, that we have our council liaison, Cynthia Massey, on the line, and in chambers, Marian Mendoza, the city administrator, and city secretary, Selena Perez. And we do not have any citizens to be heard, so we can move to the agenda item that is discussion and action on the meeting minutes for the 2 Planning and Zoning Commission meetings in the month of January. That was the regular meeting on January the 5th, special call meeting on January the 12th. And you should have received this in your packet. If there are any corrections, changes, edits, please call them to our attention, or we can handle a motion on both at the same time.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Richard. I have a quick question before we get to that. Have we dispensed with getting comments from the council? They used to give us an update to keep the communications open back and forth. Have we stopped doing that, or is it just an oversight?
So I would invite at the end of the meeting, we could perhaps revisit that with the administrator. With the pandemic, I believe that may be partly what's going on here, but let us revisit that. Thank you, Richard.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ron.
May I make a motion to accept both minutes, the 5th and the 12th?
The motion is to accept or approve the minutes from both meetings. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll accept, Richard.
Okay, so the motion is to accept or approve the minutes of both the January 5th regular meeting and the January 12th call meeting. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
All opposed, please say aye. The meeting minutes are approved. Thank you. I'd like to ask if you could please mute your phones or mute your computers when you're not speaking to cut down on any background noise. We're going to turn to item 5 tonight, which is discussion and action on a request by Joanne Taylor for approval of a variance to Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66 signs, authorizing the use of an antique 1962 Dodge truck as a creative sign through Section 9872, Old Town Helotes Special District, subparagraph 7, creative sign review for the Old Town Depot Antiques at 14392 Old Bandera Road. Selena, is there anything additional beyond what is included in our packet this evening?
Mr. Chairman, we have nothing additional to add.
Thank you. And for the commission, we do have a representative of the applicant in the room who we can turn to for questions as we move forward here. And I would at this time like to open us up to discussion and comments or questions on the item. And as usual for doing this remotely, I'm going to go around the room. I'd like to start with Jeff Wade. If you have comments or questions for staff or the applicant on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I do have a couple questions for the applicant. According to one of the pictures, it has the truck there, and then down on the ground behind it against the building, there is another sign that says Old Town Depot. Is that an old sign? Is that gonna be going away?
That's an old sign
Yeah.
sorry.
Let me ask the applicant representative to come up to the mic, and before you answer the question, if you would just give us your name and your business address for the record, please.
Monty Winterbottom, Old Town Depot Antiques. And I don't remember the address, sorry.
I could hardly hear you. Are you at the microphone?
I might have I got my mask on, so maybe
Is that better, Greg? Can you hear him?
it's Monty Winterbottom, Old Town Depot Antiques.
Why don't you come up
You
here?
come over here.
Yeah. It might be this one. Okay, now say it
I hear you real well, Selena.
Yeah. Okay, we're moving him up to a different mic. Go ahead, your
Thanks.
name.
Monty Winterbottom, Old Town Depot Antiques.
All right, thank you. I can hear you much better now. Go ahead.
Oh, the picture that was taken was, when the old sign was hanging from the, I guess, overhang of the building that it's against right now, so we just had it sitting on, when I took that photograph, but it's gonna be completely gone. Just the truck with the new sign is gonna be the only thing, sign-wise displayed with the ones that we've already asked permission to have.
Excellent, thank you for that. So I guess that, Mr. Chairman, that was my only question. I guess I do have a couple of comments. One being that, yes, I do think the old style truck fits the building and the overall aesthetics of that place itself. Not so sure about the 4 signs on the back of the truck, if they match that antiqueness or not. And I'm not so sure if we go through here and it says on one of the pages here, it says in approving a variance application of creative sign, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall ensure that the proposed sign meets the following design criteria. And then it lists off our 3 or 4 different criteria with different subtext. Personally, I don't feel it fits all of them. It fits a couple of them as far as being of uniqueness with the truck, but the sign itself, to me, doesn't fit this criteria of the creative sign as it's written in our policy. So that's just my opinion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Wade. I'd like to go to Commissioner Alex Blue, please.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, good. Because it kept telling me I was muted. I've looked at the details, the plans, and all that, and as I think about our definition of a sign, I don't think this fits because it's not something that's on a wall. It's not a monument. It is so completely out of design. I'll admit it's unique, but I don't know that that by itself means it's something that we should allow. Again, my concern is that we start setting a precedent of having freestanding structures all over the Old Town, that just because it's an antique truck and it's an antique store doesn't necessarily, to me, fit well enough that I think we should completely set aside the whole concept of what the sign is. And the uniqueness was in use of design or logo or things of that nature. And the sign, as Commissioner Wade said, is not that. So I'm not in favor of approving it as presented. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Hawk, any comments or questions?
I agree with the previous 2 commissioners. The sign I love the truck. It looks great, but the sign itself sticks out. It's not appropriate. I don't care for it. Thank you.
Commissioner Mario Rios.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. This question is for the representative from the antique shop. Just want to double check. I'm just looking at the photo. This is a sign that stays in that position, correct? Is it going to move around the property at all, or is it stationed there at that location, correct?
Yeah, it's mounted to the truck.
Right, but I didn't know if the truck was going to roll around the property or around the business and be repositioned at different times during a given year or anything like that. That was my question.
No, Marty,
Mary?
the owners, Marty, I can't remember his last name.
Terry, Mr. and Mrs. Terry.
Yeah, Marty Terry. We've spoken with him, and when he was using the parking lot for events that happen at floors, so that he allows people to park there and stuff. And so we found a spot just to keep the truck out of any inconvenience for him, just away from any activities that he uses that parking lot for throughout the year and stuff. So that was just the safest spot. It's up on a slab that's been there. We're not too sure how long, but it's out of the way of any parking, especially for when we have the market day events and stuff. So it won't move. It could be moved. I mean, we moved it to that position just by pulling it and stuff. I mean, it could actually be a running truck if we tried, but it's right now not a running truck. But the tires are up and we can move it around by just pulling it. But no plans.
Mr. Marty, another question for you, sir. Are you, did you buy this truck with the intent of making the sign, or this just came about, you had the material, you guys just built it?
I've worked at Old Town Depot with Joanne since 2017, and we had talked about it. I kind of got the idea when I saw the old truck sitting in floors with the sign on the back and stuff, and I thought, well, that'd be kind of neat if I could find something to put, just to represent the store and put a sign. And so I found the truck. It was within a budget that I could spend at the time, and we moved it to the property, and then when Joanne got the grant from the city, we were thinking of ideas and stuff, and I just thought, well, we just kind of reconfigure the sign and utilize the truck since it's there, with a sign just advertising the store toward 16, but within specifications of the city and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, my only comments now are, you guys can still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my only comment is, I actually applaud this effort. I think it's creative. I think it's unique. I drive by it all the time. I've noticed it. It's not only an anchor for that store, but it's an anchor for Old Town. Old Town is suffering right now. There's no business out there, and it's a challenge for those business owners. And I think this is very unique that this business owner comes tonight to the commission and shows an innovative way to battle the times we're in right now because of the low business, because of the pandemic. I do appreciate the comments that the commission is saying about the sign is not matching the truck perhaps, but as far as the overall of the attempt here, I would support this because I think it's needed. I think it speaks to Old Town, it shows the character, and it shows exactly what we need to do to make ourselves stand out when it comes to that vision of keeping Helotes small town and unique and classic. And I see it here in this, but I also appreciate the commission's thoughts about making the sign. It doesn't agree with the truck, but at the same time, I would hope there could be a compromise here. I think this is a very creative effort, and it's one of the best I've seen while serving on this commission. Thank you.
Jason Whiteman.
Yes, so first, I have a question for staff. I was reviewing the Old Town sign ordinances, and there were a couple of references to allowable area, and it seemed in my first reading, at least, that this was considerably over the allowable area. And I don't know if staff could comment on that aspect of it.
Jason, this is Selena. What do you mean by allowable area? What design criteria section do you see that in?
That was in, let me see here, let me pull it up. Sorry, bear with me, my computer just jumped a couple of paragraphs down. Okay, so under the 9872G sign regulations, item number 6B, commercial sign, single business or multi-tenant shopping center. It says the surface area of the sign shall not exceed 20 square feet, including the sign face, framing, and mounting hardware.
Okay, but it's not a multi-tenant sign.
But it is a single business sign, which is part of that, what it's discussing.
Are you talking about the wall sign? Because this isn't the wall
No,
sign.
I'm talking about, it says,
We really, yeah, we can't compare this to anything that's in code because it doesn't qualify as that type. So it's not a wall sign, it's not a monument sign, it's not a hanging sign, it's not a projecting sign.
okay.
That's why it falls under the creative
Yeah,
sign.
that's why it falls under the creative sign program and the applicant has requested a variance.
Okay. Okay, so that doesn't apply to creative sign
Correct.
section.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if there's
Okay.
certain conditions or stipulations where Commissioner Rio said if you guys want to make a compromise or suggest a compromise, that is your prerogative and you guys can do that in your motion, in your recommending motion.
Okay. I guess, and then my comments would be maybe splitting the baby here a little bit. I actually like the idea of the truck. I think that is very much in keeping with what Old Town is trying to be. And as Commissioner Rios mentioned, and I think the applicant mentioned that of course there is a similar sign in front of Forest Country Store, as I recall. The kind of concerns that have, one, there's sort of a maintenance issue with these, obviously, is, it can be, quirky cute, and then, without being properly maintained, very quickly, kind of look more reminiscent of a junkyard within a few years, and so that would be an initial concern. I think it's, despite the fact that the 20 square feet doesn't apply here, it's pretty big. And I would make the comment, again, I know we don't, as a board, recommend, specific design recommendations necessarily, but I did note that, there's a number of small signs kind of surrounding the main sign, which I think the text said was 8-inch font. And in looking at the GIS, it looks like the thing is about 150 to 170 feet off the road. And I'd kind of question whether or not, it's getting a little bit busy, and then, whether or not those signs are even effective, because, an 8-inch size font 150 feet away on a 50 mile or 45 mile an hour, FM road, I don't think you're going to get really anything out of those anyway. And so I'm just kind of throwing that out there that, maybe that's a way to, if we're thinking it's too busy, perhaps, as, some of the other comments seem to suggest that might be something to consider.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Ron, how's it?
Sharon. I like the concept, the truck. The Old Town Depot sign, if it somehow could be, look more vintage instead of just the square cornered piece of plywood. But I can see that all the other stuff below it is sort of stuff that they have hanging around the rest of their store. It's part of their whole image. But I can see where they need it on that side because there is very little to identify Old Town shops from the highway. That's about all I have on that.
Thank you, Ron. I have a couple questions. I think they're mainly intended for staff. But let me start with one question for the applicant, which is one of the images that was provided to us. It's a black and white photo that has all the Post-its surrounding it, shows the nutcracker decorations on the truck.
Yes.
And my question on that is that the type of thing you would intend to periodically erect on the truck, these sort of temporary themed signs?
I just happen to have those, and we use them for Christmas. Again, we had just a lot of items for Christmas this past December, so we were trying to just let people know that there were Christmas items there, hopefully.
Okay.
But I mean, that's only for those occasions. If that's allowable, we appreciate it, or whatever we have to do to authorize that. But it's just temporary, seasonal kind of piece. Those were.
Right. Okay, thank you. So the staff, would they, if they wish to do that temporary type of holiday signage, would they be allowed to do that under our ordinance for Old Town and how this works with the creative sign?
No, they would not.
Okay. Second question for staff is, and it might just be a timing given that Floor's truck signage has been there for whoever knows how long. Is there a distinction between how that is interpreted by the city and how this is being proposed?
Yeah, Flores is a historical building, and I don't know, we have to look at the history on that, but it was prior to any of the sign ordinance being in place.
Okay, that's what I figured. Thank you. My only other comment is, and I certainly appreciate everybody's perspectives on this, and this has been a fulsome debate that I think will inform council as it makes its final decision. But one thing I would be supportive of if this moves forward with a positive recommendation is that we include language requiring that the sign, the truck, be in a fixed location, that it in fact not be permitted to be relocated elsewhere on the property. That would be my strong preference if we were to move forward with this, acknowledging the creativity involved here, but in requiring it to stay in its current location, immediately adjacent to the building. On that, I think I'd like to pause, and if there are other comments or questions, I'm happy for us to entertain them, but it might be useful to put a motion out there to discuss. And so I would open the floor to that, or if there's an additional comment.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I do have one other question for the
Yes, go ahead.
applicant.
Is that Jeff?
Are these other 4 signs that are on the bottom part of the truck along the bed, are those from the Post-it notes, were those hanging from the overhang before?
They were attached to the physical wall, just kind of on a support beam. We just had them to the left of that original Old Town Depot sign. I think I put a picture of it when they were where they were and where I moved them to, but they were actually behind where the truck is now. So that's why I moved them onto the truck, just to kind of bring them forward.
So they were existing signs, you just moved.
I just pulled it forward just because we're being hidden by the truck.
Sorry, can you all hear me?
Yes.
If this were to not be approved by council, would the applicant be permitted to repost those signs on the wall of the building as they had originally been?
I think we would have to look into that. I mean, they were originally considered quote unquote wall signs, and then my understanding is that they were taken down because the building was repainted. Is that correct, or something? There was some building maintenance being done?
There's, building maintenance to be done.
To be done.
Because we, like, the part of the building back there
Yeah.
that faces 16, we always call it the chicken coop, but it's like a little kind of, covered, storage area. And it's just time has gotten the best of it. So, I mean, there's, supports and stuff that we need to just, keep the roof from getting any worse and stuff like that. I mean, those are little things we were gonna do. And, we decided to pull that sign off and hanging on those, dilapidated rafters and joists and stuff. So.
Yeah, we would have to look into that, because now they have been removed.
Right.
So that would be something we have to.
It would have been different if they removed them, did the work, and then put them back on the building. But they've removed them and clearly
Place them
repurposed them, and put them on a truck.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Jeff again. I do have one more question for the applicant.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Sir, would you be opposed to, taking off those 4 bottom signs and possibly either lowering or making the main Old Town Depot Antiques just one sign, maybe even a little bit larger on that truck, and have that be the only one on there?
The taking off the smaller signs are no problem. I mean, listening to one of the other councilmen are talking about being able to see those kind of signs and their location when people are driving by. That was some of my concern as well, and so I have no problem removing those and just leaving now making that Old Town Depot Antiques sign bigger. I just got a big 4x8 sheet of plywood, and that was basically the biggest piece of material that I can physically get, and try to make the font as big as possible with what I had. So I don't know if I can make it any larger. I can, again, bring it down if they need it lower than the 8 feet. But I have no problem removing those other signs, just to make it, like you said, more clean and not so busy. I understand that.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to invite a motion that can be debated and discussed and ultimately voted on.
Mr. Chair, this is Mario Rios. I'd like to make a motion, sir.
Go ahead, please, Mario. It's a
I'd like to
recommendation.
recommend a motion on the request by Joanne Taylor for approval of a variance to Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66 signs authorizing the use of an antique 1962 Dodge truck as a creative sign through Section 9872 Old Town Helotes Special District. Creative sign review for Old Town Depot Antiques located at 14392 Old Van Barrel Road, Helotes, Texas 78023. Recommend for approval with the stipulation that the sign is a fixed location that has been presented tonight at the commission facing State Highway 16 at the rear of the business. Remove the 4 small signs and lower the big sign to be mounted directly on the flatbed of the truck.
This is Jeff Wade, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. So let me open that motion to discussion. First, Mario, was that Jeff who seconded?
Yes.
Okay, so Mario, then Jeff. Go ahead, Mario.
Well, again, I mean, I think the commission had brought some great ideas. I definitely appreciate the business owner being here tonight and sharing his thoughts. I look at the big picture. I said it earlier, and others have said it as well. I think this is it's different, but it's also it speaks to Helotes, and it's something that would really help Old Town. I'm sure those of you who go to Old Town, it doesn't look the same as it did before the pandemic. And even before the pandemic, having something like this there would be a draw. And during the time we're in now, this definitely is a draw. Anything we can do to help our businesses, we want to do that. And I think this does that. And it's no different than some of our businesses here in town that have their company trucks or food trucks or whatever they have out there with signage that are marked. But this needs to be, as the commission said, a fixed sign, and also have the right number of signs, which is one clear sign, and not decluttered, and just the creativity and the uniqueness that is stated here, what staff has provided to us. I believe it hits all those check marks, and that's why I'm recommending approval for this with the stipulations that we mentioned.
Thank you, Mario. Jeff?
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with Mario there. I do agree with the stipulation of taking off those 4 signs. To me, they're just very redundant. If you're in the antique business, of course you're selling stuff. Of course you're buying stuff. It says antiques on top of it, and then the antiques and collectibles below it. So to me, all 4 of those are redundant and cluttery. So they did lower the main sign down. I feel that it would fit the profile of a creative sign and does add character. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jeff. Any comments on or discussion on the motion? I'll go next to Alex Blue.
I think I'm muted.
No, you're on.
We hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, as I mentioned before, first I would like to commend the rest of the commission for coming up with the suggestions. I think it definitely looks a lot less cluttered with the recommendation to lower that one big sign and remove the other 4 at the stationary and such. My still concern is the fact that it doesn't meet any of the things that we normally would do. I also concerned about the precedent it would set. Say a bar wants to put a 4x8 depiction of a 6-pack of beer or a wine bottle, or you name it, and all of a sudden we now have a collection of freestanding things that aren't monuments, they're not wall signs, they're not anything of that nature, and then we have a very cluttered look. And so to me, that's the concern that I have. I think it probably will move forward, and for that I commend the property owner for their creativity, but I still will have to say for a concern about the overall look of the city, and in particular Old Town. Just because Flores has it doesn't mean everybody can have something sitting in the parking lot. I would also mention one thing for the owner, that looks like a parking lot where everybody parks during events. And I just make a comment that if that parking lot is full of 50, 60 cars at any given time, or even just a half a dozen, you're not going to see this sign at all. But those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Richard Hawk. Any comments?
Richard, are you muted?
He needs to. Richard, okay, there you go.
Richard Hall?
I'm sorry, I was muted there off and on, but I vote for it.
Okay, hang on, wait for the vote.
We're not there, okay.
Jason, any comments on the motion?
I do like the comments that have happened since my first round of comments there. Yeah, I guess there's still a slight concern. I did, mention the maintenance issue, kind of looking at this. Again, I don't want to stipulate anything. I think, maintenance of the truck and maintenance of the little surrounding area, the concrete pad, maybe there's some planting there, but I'm a little hesitant to lean too much into this, so I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. Positive.
Mr. Chairman, I think the idea of cleaning it up at getting rid of the lower signs will help it look more of the old town look. That's about it.
Thank you. So the motion we're going to vote on, I'll read it back. The motion is to recommend approval of the request by Joanne Taylor for variance to Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66, signs authorizing the use of an antique 1962 Dodge truck as a creative sign through Section 9872, subparagraph G, Old Town Helotes Special District Creative Sign Review for Old Town Depot Antiques located at 14392 Old Bandera Road, with the conditions, following three conditions, that one, the truck in the fixed stationary as presented in our materials, which is facing State Highway 16 at the immediate rear of the building. Two, that the number of signs be reduced to only one, namely the Old Town Depot antique sign, and that sign be lowered and mounted directly on the truck. Ron, would you do a roll call on this so we can accurately record the vote?
Yes, Jason Whitman,
Yay.
Ron Haza, yes. Richard Hawk,
I'll vote again, yes.
Alex Blue,
No.
Mario Rios,
Yes.
Jeff Wade,
Yes.
Thank you, Ron.
that's a
So
5-1.
The motion is approved. We'll next go on the city council agenda. Selena, what will be the date of that meeting?
Next Thursday, February 11th, I think is the date.
That is correct.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you say February 11th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you to the applicant for the presentation and for being receptive to the comments and suggestions here, and encourage you to attend the February 11th meeting as well.
Yes, thank you.
At this point, before we close out, two notes. I'd like to return to the item, Marion, if you wouldn't mind addressing it regarding the liaison report.
Do you want me to?
I'm gonna let Selena address it because since I've been here, we have not been doing any of this, so I'm gonna let Selena address that.
So I will address that. Yes, as Marian said, that was before she came on board, and that was something that the former city administrator and the former council liaison agreed upon with the chairman. Because of COVID, we did cut it out just to speed things along, and because we're all doing this virtually. We can revisit that.
Okay, maybe we can have a discussion at a later time about this.
Correct.
I think council tended to find this valuable to get the feedback. Commission found this valuable to get the feedback from council. So let's revisit that if we can, at least in conversations with the staff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I will review all the previous ones and so forth, and then we can bring that up for the next P&Z meeting.
Yes, and Alex Blue might be able to contribute to that since he was the liaison as well. Thank you, Richard, for bringing that up. Lastly, before going out, I just wanted to acknowledge and make sure all were aware that Joe Edmond a longtime member of this body, has tendered his resignation. Joe was on this commission for nearly 18 years and was a valued volunteer and valued voice as we've had our deliberations over many years. Going to miss his contributions. I encourage you to drop Joe a note, thank him for his service. And likewise, I'll convey that to the mayor, that Joe is deserving of the recognition for his long time commitment to our city. So thank you to Joe. And with that, Ron, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of adjourning at 7:41, signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we stand adjourned at 7:41 p.m. Thank you all for your contributions tonight.
Thank you.
Was that Marion?
I think so.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Have a good night.
So it is now.
Good night, everybody.
See you next month.
Thank you.